Hello, everyone, and welcome to Campus Connections, a podcast dedicated to getting to know one another. We are recording from our downtown campus at 203 North LaSalle. I am your host, Geovanny Mayorga, and you can find the podcast at Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, etc. You can contact us at podcast@mcccollege.edu. We look forward to any feedback you would like to provide. And today we have a dynamic duo with us. We have Stacey Bizzieri. Hope I said that correctly.
You did.
And Brittany Burgess.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Looking forward to our conversation. And Brittany is the program director for surgical technology program.
And sterile processing.
And
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Stacy's the lead instructor, correct?
Yes, and clinical coordinator.
Oof.
Right.
Wonderful. Let's
times.
start learning a little bit more about surgical technology and sterile processing, what it's all about, what we offer. Brittany, as the program director, talk a little bit about your program.
Sure. So our surgical technology program is our associate program. So the students are here for 20 months. We, thank goodness, can graduate them shorter than 2 years. So we get them in the workforce a lot faster than 24 months. And our surg techs, they are learning all the knowledge and skills to be able to assist the surgeon in surgery. It's a fun job, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Right. You get to see things that not everybody gets to see on a daily basis. So that's what we like to entice those potential students with when we have them, kind of come to those interviews, and we get to say those things to, just to let them say, hey, come do what we do, because it's very interesting.
Well, and one of the things for surg techs that we explain during interviews is, as a nurse or, a medical assistant, they get to listen to a beating heart. We get to see a beating heart. So those are the things that these students get to see and deal with on a daily basis once they get out into their careers.
Yep, absolutely.
Our sterile processing program, on the other hand, that is a 10-month program, which ends up being 40 weeks long. These students, even though they're only getting a certificate in sterile processing and not an associate degree, the thing about them is they are getting a base knowledge of how to clean, disinfect, sterilize, decontaminate instruments that are used in surgery. So, what would you say are some of the things you've seen that could be on instruments?
You can have bioburden. Unfortunately,
Explain what that is.
Bioburden, sure. Bioburden is anything that's left behind from what they use in the surgery or any of the procedures. So that could be brain matter, it could be tissue, it could be fat, it could be blood, bones, it could be any of the above. So that is what comes down to the sterile processing department. And one of the things that we like to explain is that even though this is not a patient-facing position, it is just as important and as crucial as it is a patient-facing role, because these positions that they have in sterile processing, they're in charge of making sure that those patients don't come down with that infection or that post-op infection or surgical site infection going through the sterilization and decontamination of that instrumentation and supplies.
Yeah, you don't really think about that much until you're in that position, right, that somebody's going to be taking care of you. I think I told you this story, but not too long ago, I had my daughter go into surgery, and initially we thought it was going to be maybe a 2 to 4 hour procedure. It turned out to be like an 8-hour procedure. Yeah. And, as time goes by, things start playing in your head. And, what's going to happen or what's happening. And then the life of your child or your loved one is in the hands of the people that are taking care of them. So sterile processing, surgical technology, obviously the doctors and surgeons, it's extremely important that they know what they're doing. And the littlest thing, like not having clean instruments, can really wreak havoc on somebody's health or life, for that matter.
Right. And the one thing that we explain to sterile processing students is, even though you're just getting a certificate and you're kind of getting a baseline, I mean, how would I say this? You're getting a start into the healthcare field, you play a big part. And we tell them that it's like a circle and it just goes around. And so the instruments start in sterile processing. They go up to the OR as the surge techs. They're going to check to make sure, you know, there's nothing left on there. But if there is, it gets sent back down. And there's always a way to trace those instruments to know who put it together, who didn't do something correctly, so we can keep quality assurance and know what's going on.
Yeah. And the other thing that we really emphasize to students is when we're training them or when we're teaching them, is that we really need them to understand the why behind what they're doing, whether it's sterile processing or surge tech. You know, we need them to understand that sterile technique and asepsis and everything that we're explaining, don't learn it just through rote behavior, or don't do it just because we're telling you. We need you to understand the why, so that when patients, you know, treat those patients as if they're your family, or, you know, if that were your loved one, or if that were a family member that were in that operating room, you know, would you be okay with what you're doing right now? And if the answer is no, you need to ask yourself, how would you change what you're doing? Because it's that important in how you're handling what you're handling.
Well, and you tell the story about your daughter having surgery. So my husband had to have his gallbladder removed not that long ago. And with us knowing what we know, you know, I was asking, are they doing it laparoscopic? Is it open? And I try not to ask too many questions when I'm with him at the doctor, because sometimes it's better for them not to know who you are, and then you get the real answers. But it took a little longer. And so I was thinking, what is going on? It's laparoscopic. It should only take this long to get into the OR. So we have that aspect of, we know too much.
We know too much
when it happens to us.
Definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, too much, but I mean, you have to have a clear explanation.
Mm-hmm.
When I went with my daughter after the procedure, I went with a specialist afterwards for a follow-up, and I was asking questions that I thought were pretty relevant to what was happening, and I kept getting answers that I didn't like. You know, I'm like, okay, well, you should know better than I do because you're the doctor,
right?
But you're like, not sure I like what you're saying too much. Mm-hmm. So we have programs at downtown. We have programs in Evergreen Park, which is on the south side.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How long are the programs?
So Surge Tech is 20 months. So they're 4 months shy of a full 2 years. Because we're hybrid, we're able to do that, where they're taking, you know, virtual classes, online, and then in person. And then sterile processing is 10 months, which is 40 weeks. So they're, I mean, for what they're going to get to do in a career, these are, I would say, good lengths of programs to get the information you need and then get them out in the workforce as quick as possible, because there's a shortage.
Yeah, definite shortage.
We're part of AST, which is the Association of Surgical Technologists. And one of the biggest things right now is trying to get the state of Illinois to require certified techs in the operating room. But there's a pushback because of the shortage. That certification is going to ensure that they were taught everything they needed before they got into the OR to have that knowledge. And that's something that we're trying to be a part of.
Yes.
And help with that legislation.
Now, our program recently got accredited, correct?
Correct.
2019. Yeah, Surge Tech became KHEP accredited, which is, you're probably better at knowing those than me. Look, we're both going blank. Basically what KHEP does, which is CAAHEP, they're the Commission on Accreditation for Allied Health
Education Programs.
There we go.
Yes.
See?
Yeah, we got it.
We feed off each other there. What they do is they ensure that you have a curriculum that you're following that was put together by a board of educators, which include, you know, a medical doctor, surge techs, nurses, anybody who's had any kind of role in the operating room. And with that, they have the chance to sit for the certified surgical technology exam through NBSTSA, which is
the National Board of Surgical Technology and Surgical Assisting.
So that is, it's the gold standard. Doesn't mean that someone who doesn't have that isn't as knowledgeable, but that just lets, your hospitals and your facilities know these students came out of a program that had a strict curriculum that they followed.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And we just went through a reaccreditation process, and we should find out in July. Fingers crossed. I think we're good. We'll get our 10-year reaccreditation.
Yeah. Nice.
Yep.
Now, we spoke about that there's a difference between surgical technologist and surgical technician. That was the other one. Yeah. What are the differences?
So technician is someone who they don't quite have the training and the knowledge base that a technologist does. So that technologist has gone through that training and the certification that Brittany was speaking about. So the NBSTSA or the full curriculum versus a technician that may have on-the-job training or that maybe started out a long time ago and hasn't gone through a program like we have.
Right. And my daughter just turned 15, so I'm taking her to get her permit. And I was telling her, she went through school, which I didn't have that when I was younger. And I said, you're learning all the signs and everything. I said, and if you don't have somebody to teach you that and you just go get your permit, you're winging it, is what I say, to hope that you know what it's talking about. I said, versus you have the information more in depth with a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how it works for technician and technologist. Technologists had somebody teach them the skill set and the knowledge before they got into the OR. So kind of on that same process there.
And they're really pushing AST, so the professional organization that we were talking about, they're really pushing for legislation nationwide to make sure that it's required for certification. Because if you think about it, people have to have a license to cut hair or to work on a car. Why do we not have to have certification to work in a human body? I think, what is it? Probably 15 states that require it, somewhere around there. So right now, only 15 states out of 50 require you to be certified as a surg tech. Illinois is not one of them. So right now, they're really pushing right now. AST is really pushing right now to get people on board to make it required to be a CST.
And I just got an email this morning from the president of AST, and it's actually going to the Senate right now.
It is.
So.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Yep.
Like many people, I don't necessarily think that we all start doing what we end up doing, right?
Right.
And I know that you both started doing something different.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Brittany, you were a star athlete in your younger years.
And then I had kids.
What were you doing?
So right out of high school, I had a softball scholarship. So I played at an NAIA division college, and I was a pitcher. So I did that for 4 years and went to nursing school at that time. So that was always my thing to do, but I actually wanted to be in the Olympics as a softball player. And they got rid of the Olympics before I could make it to that point because as USA, we were just killing the game. We were beating everybody. So
you want to beat Jenny Finch?
I did. If you know who that is.
Yeah, I do know who that is. She played here. I don't know if she still plays here.
So when they got rid of the Olympics, they then got the professional softball leagues, and she was a part of all that. So, yeah.
Is that still...
They still have professional leagues, yeah.
Nice.
So that was my thing, and then I had kids and hurt my shoulder, and I don't play.
But you went
softball.
to school for nursing, correct?
I did, yes. I tell my students I can relate to them when they talk about some of their struggles in life. I had 2 semesters left to have my bachelor's in nursing, and had a lot of personal things go on in my life, and left school and never went back for that.
Yeah, it's understandable.
Regret it every day, but I wouldn't be where I'm at.
That is
today.
true.
So,
That's how life happens, basically. And Stacey, you, first of all, I think it's awesome what you did in high school, which you were working at a record store, correct?
Yes, I did. After I left high school, I love music. Music has been a huge part of my life. I just liked working in music, and I worked in video stores. I kind of related to the whole like Empire Records movie, like way back when, I just love music. So I did that for a while. And then I went into banking and then did banking until the mortgage crash of 2007 happened. And then I needed to go back to school, which brought me here.
Yeah, we had a great discussion with Dr. Resto when I did his episode about his time in banking, and my sister's been in banking. You were in banking for, 18, 20 years?
13 years. I did banking. Years. Yeah, I did 13 years in banking. I started out on the teller side, on the retail side, and then it got a little too sales for me. I'm not a salesperson at all. So I kind of switched over to the underwriting side, and I underwrote mortgages for about 7 years of that. So that's where I left. And then unfortunately worked for one of the largest predatory lenders in Chicago.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah. Right? So I had to get out. So left and ended up in retail, and as a single mom couldn't sustain raising a child on retail level income. So I decided to go to Miller Mott Technical College in Clarksville, Tennessee, which, how I ended up in Tennessee as a Chicago girl is a whole nother story. But that's where I ended up in Surge Tech School. I always wanted to be in medicine, so medicine always kind of piqued my interest. But that's where I ended up enrolling in surgical technology, and that was in 2009. So I ended up there.
The interesting thing about that is that you are both from Chicago, the Chicago area.
Correct.
But you both ended up in Tennessee.
Yep, that's
Brittany,
right.
You went to university there, and
Right. I actually lived there for 20 years. My dad was in the military, so that's where he was stationed. We were in Hawaii, and then he had the choice to either go to
you
Alaska.
lived in Hawaii?
We did, yes.
Why'd you ever leave? First of all, thank you to your dad for his service.
He owns a house in Hawaii. So does my uncle. So Stacey and I have gone there.
Yep.
So, we still go
you've
there.
been to-
We went there
for our
2 years ago. We went for our
birthdays.
birthdays, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because our birthdays are only 10 days apart.
Look at that. You have more in common than anybody knew.
That's why we're like, that's what
We're two peas in a pod.
somebody said the other day. They're like, you guys are just like platonic soulmates. And we really are. It's very weird.
But to kind of touch on that, I was there because my dad was in the military, and I was her instructor in Surge Tech School. Actually, I was her clinical coordinator.
Yes.
So at that time, I was at the hospital when she was doing her externship rotation. And then we got to talking, and somehow we got onto where she was from. And I said, wait a minute, we're from the same area. She knows some of my family members somehow through schooling and whatnot. And I said, how in the world did you end up in Clarksville, Tennessee? And she actually lived in the rural country. Like, it's rare you see cars driving by type of area.
Bumpus Mills. Bumpus Mills was the name of the town.
Sounds fun.
Oh.
Well, when I first went to her house after she had graduated and came to work for us, that's a whole nother story as well we'll get on to. But she said, there's a big hill you have to go up. And I'm like, it can't be that bad. Because I had never been out that way. I stayed in the city area. And so when I went out there, I said, no wonder why you can't get to work in the wintertime when it snows. I'm like, this is a big, and it literally would go up and turn really fast. Yeah. So
like a mile and a half up a dirt road.
So that's where she lived.
Yeah.
And that, Brittany, you also, you got started into teaching for a similar reason, right?
Yeah, so I was actually working in surgery. My daughter was, what was she? 8 months old at the time. I was a single mom. I had left her father, and I was only making $9 an hour working in surgery in Tennessee. Cost of living is totally different there. And I thought that was good because I was making $7 an hour before that. And then I thought, there's no way that I can live off of this. I opened up a phone book, started looking through the phone book, called around private practices because I didn't want to work on call or nights. found a surgeon to work for, and then they didn't offer health insurance. Before the Affordable Care Act, which we know it as Obamacare, if you had under, I believe it was 10 employees, they didn't have to offer health insurance. So I had no health insurance. My program director when I was in school called me up and said, I have a position and I really want you to come take it. And I said, do you offer benefits? What are they? And I said, sure, count me in. And that's how I got into teaching. It was not something I saw coming at all.
And then that's how Stacey ended up being your student.
Yes.
Yep.
And you got into medical because?
I got into medical just because I've always been interested in it ever since I was a little kid. Like which is a whole nother story, but my biological father was actually a firefighter.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of grew up around the firehouse until I was about 10 years old. And then my brain's just always kind of liked medical. So I've kind of always been drawn to it.
And now you ended up teaching then. Did you actually go and practice
She brought me on to teaching. Mm-hmm. I was working at Vanderbilt in Nashville.
But hold on. Before that, didn't you move back here?
I did. So I graduated. Once I graduated, I moved back to Chicago and worked at Loyola.
At night.
At night. I was working midnights at Loyola. And my dad and my son had this like bond. They were just bonded together. A single mom working midnights was really hard to find care.
Of course.
And my dad just said, just move back.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay. There happened to be a position open at Vanderbilt in labor and delivery, which is where I was working at Loyola. So I moved back to Tennessee, and was driving 100 miles one way to work. So I was driving 200 miles round trip, just to work, which I loved working at Vanderbilt. I mean, great teamwork,
great
everything. It was
institution,
amazing.
Yeah.
But then Brittany called me up and said, hey, you know what? We've got a teaching position open. And I went, okay. And they were paying more money and it was closer to home. And she said, come in and take the test.
Oh, I forgot.
Which was it was a personality test.
You know where you have to answer the questions and you
Yes.
should answer it the same every time. And
I don't always do well at those things.
you should answer it the way they want you to answer it, not the way you really feel. And she failed the test. So my boss's boss was like, no, we can't. She scored. That's not going to work for us. And so
I don't do well.
we had to explain the situation and how her brain works. And we ended up getting her on board after that.
She still to this day says, Stacey, your brain, like, why can't you ever just go from A to B to C to Z to get, she's like, you've got to go from like A to R to L to Q back to C to get to Z. Like you can't ever just go and it's true. I can't. I don't know. So so that's what started me teaching. That's how I got started teaching. And then we just kind of followed each other. Then I ended up moving back to Chicago because my dad got sick and all our family's here. I started working at Malcolm X, and her mom had passed away. And her family was all up here. So she moved back up here and came to work with me at Malcolm X. They restructured. And she came here. I stayed there. Which I guess is no secret, they lost their accreditation. And after she came here and they lost their accreditation, she said, give me a year and I'll bring you on. So she's been here a little over 3 years. I've been
4
here.
years.
4 years in August, right?
No, almost
it's
5.
5? Oh, geez. I've been here almost 3 years. So
that's where
so
we're at
we've
now.
been teaching together for almost 10 years.
And the
over
plus
10
too
years.
is, we tell people if she can't lecture for the day for whatever reason, I can just step in and lecture because we teach the same. And that's not something you always get. A lot of times you butt heads because everybody has an opinion, and it doesn't mean that that's the wrong way. It's just different, and we don't have that, thank goodness.
So after you graduated, you guys obviously stayed in touch, or how'd that work?
We didn't for a while.
We didn't for a while.
When I left my teaching position in Tennessee and she was still there, there was a lot of things that went on that after 5 years of being there, I was just tired of it. Mentally, I couldn't do it anymore. And so I put my 2 weeks, I was going to put my 2 weeks in and something happened. And I just walked out one day, which is not something I would normally do. And when I left, there was a lot of, what would you say, like things were said about me that was so inaccurate. She was told she couldn't talk to me if she still wanted to work there. And I thought, this is insane. Like, what did I do to these people besides I couldn't take lying about things? Stuff was going on with the director, and I just said, I can't do it anymore. Yeah. So we quit talking for a while, like about a year or so.
It was between when you left and then when I finally decided to leave that I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I called her up and I was like, look, this is ridiculous. And I started telling her everything, and she was like, what are you talking about? Yeah. And that was like the end of it. And then we just started talking again.
Well, yeah. And I told her, I can't blame you. That was your job. They were telling you things, and you kind of had to do what you needed to do to keep your job. So no hard feelings there.
No.
And then she came here, and
right.
I came here as well. Been here since 2019, thanks to her.
Yeah, nice. And we talked a little bit about, you guys were at the time single. You're still a single mom.
I'm still a single mom. Yep.
Working life, trying to balance work, family, home, similar to what some of our students go through now. Some of our students are single moms or have family to take care of. So I think for the students as an instructor, when you're able to relate, kind of helps them out a little bit, understanding and getting through some of the program. Do you have, or do you encounter some of that in your programs?
We do. It could be anything from somebody lost a parent. We had a student that we both talked to. She graduated, and while she was in school, she lost her father, and it hit her hard. She was a really good student, then started to drop off a little and struggle. And so we kind of tell these students, we get it. We've been there. We have single moms who say they're struggling with daycare, or I can't come to class today because my child is sick. How am I supposed to make this work? And we kind of explain it's not easy. You got to have a backup to a backup to a backup to kind of make it work. But we do try to, we tell the students we empathize with you. We understand. It's not the same situation, but we've been through things, and you got to keep the communication open.
Yeah, keep the and don't always think that just because don't judge a book by its cover. Just because you see what you see doesn't mean we haven't experienced what you may have experienced.
Right.
Right. We can empathize. We have been through things.
100%.
So what is you both been in the operating room now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What is a day in the life of a search tech in the operating room?
It's wonderful. Everybody should do it.
It's go.
No, thank you.
It's go.
I have a weak stomach. I'd pass out.
It's from the second you walk through the door.
You lose weight because you never sit still.
Yeah, you never sit still.
No.
I just as recently as May, I was in the operating room. I went back for a little while, just to kind of keep up on my scrub skills. But a typical day, you walk in the door at 6 o'clock, you look at your cases, you go prep your room. You could have anywhere from 3 cases a day to 10 cases a day, depending on what you're doing. But it's go from the second you walk in the door.
Well, and it depends on what type of shift you're working.
Yeah.
Is it 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours on how go you are?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we tell the students, I try to tell them, most of them have they've either bartended or they've worked at restaurants. And so I tell them it's kind of like working in a restaurant where once the customer gets up, we clean up and get ready for the next one. And that's what we do in the OR. We work on one procedure, get everything ready for it, and then we turn around and clean it up. And we have turnover times we have to hit to where you should be cleaned up. I mean, what was yours at?
Turnover time?
Do you know what
Probably
it was?
About 10 minutes.
It's usually 10 to 15 minutes. They're expecting you to start getting ready for the next case because it's back to back. And You have board runners who are nurses who that's their job, is to keep track of how the flow of surgery is going. And it's like a puzzle. They'll start moving things around to keep the cases flowing because that's their revenue, of course. Yeah. But yeah, you have to know everything from what instruments do you need? What's the anatomy of the procedure you're doing? The students always say, well, how do you know how you're setting the room up? Is it on the surgeon's preference card, which is a piece of paper that's printed out that is going to say the procedure, is the surgeon right-handed or left-handed, because that's important, especially if they're left-handed, which she is. So she teaches all the left-handed students stuff because it's different.
It is.
It's different on how to do things if you're left-handed or right-handed. So you have to know all of that. And I like to say that we know more than everybody in that room minus the surgeon and sometimes probably anesthesia. But
sometimes we know just as much as the surgeon. We have to know just as much as the surgeon because one of the key things that, we say is our job is anticipation. So, there's a saying that we have that says, don't give them what they ask for, give them what they need, because sometimes what they ask for is not actually what they need. And we know what they need before they actually need it. So we know just as much as that surgeon does when it comes to that procedure. And that takes time. A
lot of time.
Are there any, a lot of us get our ideas of what happens in the operating room from TV shows.
Which is not real.
Well, that was my next question. Is it what it's shown in the TV shows, or what's actually the?
And I was gonna.
She loves to watch all the Chicago shows.
Yeah.
So what is it? Fire, Med, whatever all the shows are, and her son's been in a couple of them. But we always joke, and my husband as well. So my husband works in healthcare as well, and so all three of us have like a little chat. We're always talking about things, but we joke that it's not realistic.
No.
They have, I don't know, what do they call the people that kind of guide them?
Yeah, like the advisors kind of things.
They have healthcare advisors to guide them on how to do things. But at the same time, it's TV, so we can't always have masks on because we have to see what we're saying. Yeah. And, they do some of the off-the-wall stuff, but we have to tell the students, they tend to walk around with their hands up like this. They're sterile from mid-chest. But when you see this, you're not sterile here. Yeah. And because they watch Grey's Anatomy. That's the one they always say, and so I said, we're not doing Grey's Anatomy. We're now sterile. And so it's very different.
My mother will not watch medical shows with me.
No.
Because she calls everything out.
Because I do. And
even
she's like,
when I watch it.
Yeah.
She'll say, that's not right.
She's like, Stacey, I cannot. She will not. She will tell anybody. When she tells them what my profession is, I will not watch medical shows with her because she points everything out that's incorrect. I can't help it.
It is. It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, I know they need to make a little drama, but it needs to be somewhat accurate. I think I was watching a series the other day, and I'm like, there's no way a doctor is doing what you're doing.
No. What was the show you watched
PD the other day? Yeah, they were talking about Schedule II narcotics, and they threw out 2 drugs that are clearly not Schedule II narcotics. So I was like, oh, now the world thinks, or at least the nation thinks, that albuterol and Abilify are Schedule II narcotics, and they are not.
There you go. You should be then an advisor for it.
I know, right?
Part-time stuff. Yeah.
So when we went to Hawaii for our birthdays, they were filming.
It was CSI
Hawaii. Okay. And we were laying on the beach.
We were on it.
We were on
really?
it. Yeah. Our hotel.
We were blurry in the background.
But we were there. We were there. We were famous.
Did you have to sign a waiver?
No. Where we were at, we weren't part of the show per se, but we made sure we stayed there because they came up and blocked off part of the beach.
Like a boundary.
We were right next to it, but when we watched the show, we all had to watch it when it came on, and we're like, "Oh, there we are! We're blurry."
Oh, you got to tell me what? Do you know what episode it was?
The very first one, wasn't it? Or no?
I don't remember which one.
It's either maybe it was later on. We'll have to look, but it was funny watching it and then seeing what we saw on the beach, and we were trying to figure out what the scene was about and whatnot. But
I should definitely look into that. Being an advisor for some of the shows.
She would like that.
I would. There's one that's on Grey's Anatomy. Yeah, Linda Davis is her name.
Really?
Yeah, she makes a lot of money.
Her and my husband are all into that stuff because when they were doing, my husband used to act. He used to do stuff in different shows.
Your aunt does too.
My aunt does as well. She's
as an extra or as an actual actor?
They're extras, but my aunt actually has, I don't even know.
Through an agency?
She is, but she does more. She does more than just extra. So I don't know exactly what she does, but I saw her on Chicago Med one time and I was like, wait a minute. I had to rewind it. I'm like, is that who I think that is? And yeah, so.
There you go. You can do some scrubbing on Chicago Med.
We say that all the time. Yeah.
We should.
You should do
I'm
it.
against it. She's all for it. Her and my husband. I'm like, you guys can go together. I'll stay at home with all the kids.
You don't have to have any lines. You just have to be there.
To scrub in.
Yeah. Scalpel.
To walk like this. Then you can walk like this and nobody can tell you not to.
So that's a good segue into work-life balance, because if you're talking about doing, 10, 12-hour shifts, then what do you do, to de-stress and come back to real life after working such a long shift? I mean, how do you balance work-life, balance?
I mean, we talked about music earlier.
Yeah.
Now that, kind of COVID has kind of gone to the wayside. Concerts have started back up. So I enjoy going to concerts, sporting events. So, I've gone to a couple concerts, even though, we're not going to get into the Bears and how well they did or did not do this past season. But I was able to go to, the Family Fest, and I actually got to go to a Bears preseason game, a couple Cubs games. Did get to see Hamilton before it left. We actually went to see Hamilton.
We do a lot together.
So I like to do those kind of things when I have time. And
do you like music festivals, or is it more like concert?
I don't do the festivals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, is it too many people?
Yeah, It's not that it's too many people. There's just too many groups. I don't even go for the opening acts anymore. I think I'm too old for the opening acts. Like I went to see Depeche Mode. Like, I don't care about the opening act. I'll just go for.
Really?
Yeah.
You gotta get your money's worth. These are expensive tickets.
I've seen so many concerts in my lifetime. Like,
I wanted to go see Depeche Mode, and I told you I wanted to see The Cure too last year. Didn't get around to it.
So good. The only one I have coming up is Blink 182. I'm still working on. I want to get Justin Timberlake. I admit it. I want to get Justin Timberlake tickets.
I tell her she's too old.
No. And now Usher just came around. He's got 3 shows at United Center. Now I got to work on Usher tickets. I'm all over the place with my music taste. I really am.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit my music taste. I've been lucky enough that I saw, and this will give you the range. I went to a concert in Colorado at Red Rocks Amphitheater.
Oh, nice.
If you've never been there, you have to go.
I have not.
It's absolutely gorgeous, and the acoustics are top notch.
Amazing, I'm sure.
I saw Willie Nelson there.
Really?
Amazing to see Willie Nelson. I mean, I'm so that's one of my highlights to have been able to see him in concert.
Yeah.
And
then the other extreme is I saw Snoop Dogg.
I'm
like my husband.
But see, I'm in the same category. I've seen Ice-T with Body Count at the Metro. Okay. So, and then I've seen like Harry Connick Jr. I've seen Neil Diamond.
No, I haven't seen that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm all over the board with.
Yeah,
concerts.
I've seen Metallica.
No.
That was a little insane.
I bet that
I saw them in Denver as well, and we were at the time it was the Pepsi Center. It was so loud, I thought my ears were gonna bleed.
I've seen Korn.
It's insane.
I mean, Korn is kind of loud. I've seen
Korn.
It was Korn with Snoop Dogg, so I have seen Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, Red Rocks. I mean, I do wanna. I want to at least have the experience of, because I've never been to Lollapalooza, which is here.
Really?
I
haven't either, but I've gotten
first one.
Yeah.
I got stuck in traffic and she had to guide me through downtown.
That's true. I did.
When I first came for an interview to move here, and I was like, what are these people wearing?
Mm-hmm.
And I had no clue what it was. I hadn't heard of it. And she was like, oh, Lollapalooza's going on. I'm like, this is insane. And it was daytime.
Yeah. No,
So, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing now. The fests. I mean, fests are popping up everywhere, but I want to see at least some of the more known ones like Bonnaroo. I really want to go to Napa. Is it in
Lord,
Tennessee,
I
Bonnaroo?
wouldn't go
It
near
is.
Bonnaroo.
Really? Why
No,
is that?
it gets crazy.
Yeah. A lot of nudity and
Oh, perfect.
yeah, all kinds of fun stuff.
Lots of
And
mud.
What's the one in California?
Oh,
I know what you're talking about, but I
Yeah,
can't
it
think
starts
of
with
it.
a C. No,
I can't
I know what you're
remember
talking
now.
about,
Yeah,
though.
the one in California. I want to see that as well.
seeing here, I go to Taylor Swift concerts with
Did you go to
my
the Taylor Swift one here?
15-year-old. No, we went to Nashville.
Oh, you went to Nashville?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was tiring. I'd never been to an almost 4-hour concert with a bunch of
I don't-
Swifties.
Yeah, I don't get that at all. I just can't. I don't understand it.
I went because my daughter went, and I was just like, what in
Oh,
the
no, I get
world?
that you go, because you're a kid. I just don't get the whole circus around it.
It was insane.
Yeah.
It was like Lollapalooza for Taylor Swift
For
is what I felt
teenagers.
like.
Well, Lollapalooza is more like teenagey now.
Yeah.
Well, but it's how they dress. Like the whole dress to go to
Yeah.
some of these concerts is like, I feel
Agreed.
like they spend a lot of money just to look a certain way to go, and you're in the nosebleeds, and yeah,
We'll have Swifties this weekend for the Super Bowl.
that's right.
Ooh.
My daughter's excited. How many times
Yeah.
are we going to see Taylor Swift?
Is she going to make it from Japan,
She
though?
said
That's
she
the
is.
question.
My daughter stays on the page, and
Okay.
whenever we
Somebody-
see
I
something,
can't remember who told me that that Taylor Swift is one of the worst polluters in
Oh.
the world
My s-
because she's
my
she's
student
flying
just
every
told
time.
me that
Yeah, somebody told me that.
so they told me yesterday that apparently she flew 13
Like,
minutes
she flies
when she
yeah.
could have just drove, and
She flies for everything.
yeah. I mean, she owns her own plane.
Yeah,
She's
and
a
I guess
billionaire.
she just can't go anywhere without being mobbed. I don't know why. I don't get that mentality at all.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to the concerts. What's been one of your favorite concerts?
Of all time that
Yeah,
I've
do
seen?
you have,
Oh,
specific
wow.
ones you remember?
The Cure was one of them
Yeah.
from way back when. I think U2's Zoo TV tour
hmm
was probably one. I mean, Depeche Mode, because I've seen them like 17 or 18 times.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never seen them.
Yeah. Wow. I would probably say those are like my top three. And then if you go like small venue that I've seen, like Beastie Boys, I've seen
Oh,
them.
you saw them.
That's what I mean. I've probably seen anywhere between 150 to 200 concerts.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that many, but I have seen a few. I've been lucky to see different venues. Like I
Yeah,
went to Milwaukee.
definitely.
I can't remember the venue name, but that was similar to like a Metro
Yeah.
small venue. I've been to Red Rocks, which is probably the favorite
That would be
one.
amazing.
The amphitheater in Indianapolis, I can't remember because they're always changing names.
Yep.
I've seen several concerts there.
Yep.
Several concerts in Denver.
Like I've here, okay. Guilty pleasure moment. I've flown to Las Vegas to see NSYNC.
Shouldn't have said that.
I don't care.
Just because she likes Justin Timberlake.
It is. It's because I like
Okay.
Justin Timberlake. I have
How do you
I
feel
have
about
liked
Usher
Justin
being?
I love Usher. So
I mean, he's good. Yeah.
he's an entertainer. I like entertainers. That's why I like Justin Timberlake. He's an entertainer.
I saw. I'm a big sports fan.
Yes.
I'm always like.
Agreed.
I'm
I am
always
as well.
seeing who's going to play the halftime shows.
Yeah.
Right.
There have been some good ones and some
Not so good ones.
good.
I agree.
Recently saw the NHL All-Star Game, which is held in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible music. I don't know who was doing the music booking. Sounded to me or seemed to me like there was a lot of Canadian artists.
Oh,
It was not good.
I did
It
not
was
see that
not
one.
good.
I missed that
I would
one.
have been pissed if I would have paid that much money to go see that. No. So yeah, one of my favorites, and I remember, and it's more for the atmosphere that was built around the concert was
Right.
the Gypsy Kings.
Oh, I bet that was good.
Gypsy Kings at Red Rocks Amphitheater.
Oh, see?
It was amazing. The sound, the atmosphere, it was just like a huge party.
Yeah. See, and that's I think I bet half of it was just the Red Rocks.
Yeah, like I said, if you've never been there,
No.
it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then let alone the sound that comes off of it, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, I
The
bet.
gorge and what is it? It's in California, the gorge.
Mhm.
That's another one I want to go take a look at.
Yeah.
So anyway, what other things outside of music?
Just being at home.
Work-life balance. How about you?
Yep.
You still do anything with softball? Is your
I
daughter into
do.
softball or anything like that?
No, so that's always your dream, you know, when you have kids, they're going to be just like you. And she's totally opposite. She is musical, so she sings, she's in musical theater and violin. Hoping that the almost 2-year-old is into sports because we'll have maybe better luck with him. So no, she's into that, but we had season tickets recently for the White Sox.
Okay.
My husband, I grew up all around the world. I lived in Europe, Hawaii. I was born in Texas. I mean, you name it, I've lived
You
there.
were born in Texas?
I was.
I thought you were born here. You were born in Texas and you went to high school here?
No, I went to high school in Tennessee, started school in Germany, Oklahoma, Tennessee. I mean, you know, I went to, I believe my brother and I went to 16 different grade schools before we graduated high school.
Was that because of the military?
Yeah. Yeah. So, no, I was the only
that's
one.
Tough.
You know, my mom kind of was the glue that held it together, and she was really good at every 4 years we were moving. And when we lived in Europe, we moved, I believe, 2 or 3 times just in Europe alone, in Germany. And she was really big on, well, you get to, you know, reinvent yourself and make new friends. And she tried to make it as exciting as possible. So I was the only one out of my mom, my dad, and my brother that was born in Texas. They were all born here in Illinois. So that's me. Yay.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So my husband didn't have any of that, though. They didn't travel. His parents didn't get along that great. His life was a little different. So he wanted different for our kids. And he was like, let's go to the White Sox. And we got season tickets. And we got rid of them because of how the season went. So hopefully we get that
How do
back.
you feel about they may move?
Right.
Yeah, well, it looks nice, though. It looks nice on... She was actually telling me where it was at. My husband looks into all that. It looks like it's going to be a nice field. I mean, I don't know.
Is it official, though?
I see that. I don't know. My husband would know that. I don't
It's like the Bears.
She
Right.
doesn't like the White Sox. So
I know.
she
I'm a
doesn't.
North Sider.
We're talking about that with my cousins when we were recently at this. Recently went to the Blackhawks game. We're talking about, you know, North Side versus South Side.
And it's crazy.
I grew up actually, and I was telling them I grew up, just like many of them did, going to White Sox games. And at the time, Comiskey would host a lot of sporting events, like
Right.
soccer events, some concerts that they would host at the time. So we grew up more, even though we've always been on the North Side, we grew up more going to South Side than we did to the North Side of the Chicago Cubs.
So it's funny you say that. My friend came to visit when I first moved here, and we did a tour of the Cubs stadium, and my family, I had pictures, and they're like, how dare you go and do that? And I was like, just the, you know, learning about everything about that.
Experience.
Yeah, I was like, that was amazing. We got to go on the field and get pieces of ivy because they were trimming the ivy that day. And no, my family was like, you don't go there. How dare you go there? It was like I had a big X on me because I went there. So
yeah, we feel the same thing about some of our cousins that are Sox fans.
yeah.
We're now
didn't-
Cubs fans.
Yeah. My uncle used to work for the Tribune. So we, like, ever since I was little, I was just kind of born into being a Cubs fan. So I've just always been a Cubs fan. My
That's how
dad
it
was a
is,
Cubs
though.
fan. So, you know, once we moved back here, that's the first Cubs game that over the summer. That was like on Father's Day. We went to a Cubs game. That was the first Cubs game that Dom had been to. So that was his first Cubs. He was all excited. He had never been to Wrigley, and he'd always wanted to go to Wrigley. So that was his first Cubs game.
Well, I think more people, I don't know why, know Wrigley over Comiskey. I don't know why.
I don't know if it's because of the what's the word I'm looking for? Just it's been around longer, and I mean I don't know.
But they've done so much to it. It's not
The same.
Wrigley. I mean, it is Wrigley, but it's not Wrigley.
Well, I mean, it's
It is
Wrigley,
Wrigley.
2024 Wrigley,
Right.
not
I mean-
1990 Wrigley.
Right.
It was just like, well, what the White Sox had to do, they had to, and I don't know if you remember, when the new Comiskey was built, it was built with blue seats. Do you remember that?
I did, yes.
And then they switched them to green
Mm-hmm.
seats, and then a few years ago they added the ivy in the back,
right.
to make it a little bit not so plasticky,
Right.
because the blue was just like felt so plasticky.
Yeah.
And I think if they build the new stadium with the look of it, for the most, I was telling my husband, it looks the same.
It
per
does.
se, but it's got more greenery. So I feel like that's
the trend now.
Right.
The trend has to be a little more earthy.
exactly.
Yeah.
More
And everything's
yeah.
being built with restaurants. And if you
Yep.
look at the United Center, the addition that was done,
Oh yeah.
it built restaurants and
Yeah.
bars and a bar.
When we went there for the Depeche Mode concert, I hadn't been there in forever, and we walked in, and I was like, "Holy cow!" And that was the first time my
Yeah.
son. That was his first concert as
'cause
well.
remember the Michael Jordan statue was outside,
Yes,
and they built
exactly.
on top of it.
And
Yeah.
he was just like in awe. He was
Yeah.
like, "Holy cow!" Yeah,
Really
he didn't.
did.
He kind of
Yeah,
didn't know where to
that's
look.
the trend.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we're coming to the end of our episode. Any last parting words?
For me, just to tell you how much you're appreciated here. And I
Aw.
hope we have many more years together, so don't try to leave anymore.
No, I won't leave. I
She's
mean,
tried to
we're
leave me and
I
she
know.
comes back.
We're a package deal.
Yes,
I mean,
like I
I think
said,
I think that's just kind of. I think that goes without.
And we don't always get
saying.
along.
No.
Like-
It's a healthy
Like a sibling relationship.
Right, where it's we have to tell students I am her boss and we don't always agree, and I will tell her, hey, I need you to not do that. So but it works. We have I think what students always ask us, what makes this program or these programs special, and we say us. It
It
really
is true.
is. It really is.
It is very true. Like I said, at the beginning, you're a dynamic duo. You do a lot for this program. I know that we want to grow, but there are steps that need to be taken.
Right.
So for sure, was very happy that you both can make it and finally record the episode.
Right.
I think it's been great conversation. You are very much appreciated for all the work that you do.
Well, we
you do a
appreciate
lot of
you.
work to make the program as successful as it has been.
Well,
And
thank
I
you for
think that-
having us.
I think the
Yes.
students appreciate that as well.
We appreciate you.
Yes,
by
we
the way.
appreciate you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you. Very kind of you. So we've come to the end of the episode. Want to thank you again for taking the time. I know, we've had to reschedule, but I'm glad we got it done. Want to remind the listeners that you can follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts. Write to us at podcast@mcccollege.edu, and we look forward to talking to you next time. Thank you, Brittany and Stacey.
Thank you.
Thank you.